Hello, everyone. So I'm going to be going over the quadratic study guide. This is not something you have to do. It is to prepare you, but you need to do it. You're not turning it in. It's to prepare you. So if you're watching this video first, don't. Do the study guide. Now, you don't have to watch this video. This video is only if you get stuck on a question. And I'll try to be very clear about what question we're on and when we're on it. Okay. So you do have to do the study guide. You don't have to turn it in, but you don't have to watch this video. I just want to be clear on that. So hopefully we are screen sharing. Says it's sharing my screen. There we go. All right. The quadratics study guide. Which of these statements describes the graph of the function f of x equals x squared plus 14x plus 49? So one thing I would suggest doing is going on to Desmos and let's look. So we're going to put this into there. You can put the f of x, but you don't have to. So x squared plus 14x plus 49. So as you can see, the graph passes through the x-axis. Does the graph ever pass through the x-axis? No, it touches it. It never passes through. That means we can get rid of A and B. The graph touches the x-axis. Yes, it touches the x-axis at -7, right there at -7. So right then, you know the answer is C and is not D. So what we did was we put in Desmos, and it touches because the vertex is the x-intercept. Okay. For the next one, the following binomial is known as a difference of squares. R squared equals 100, or sorry, R squared minus 100. This is number 2 we're on. Determine the two binomials the expression factors into. So it's saying factor this function right here. So you have R squared minus 100, and it specifically told you it's a difference of squares. Now we know a difference of squares. We put up our parentheses. We split our letter evenly, so there's 2 of them. There's going to be 1 and 1. We take the square root of any number. It's 100. Square root of 100 is 10. We put a plus on one side and a minus on the other. So that is how you would solve that one. For the next one, Haley says the equation f of x equals x plus 2 times x plus 6 represents the graph shown below. Is Haley correct? Explain your reasoning. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this into Desmos. But before we do that, these are the factors. So what should the zeros be? Well, the zeros should be the opposite. So -2, -6. The zeros are also the x-intercepts. Are those the x-intercepts? No, the x-intercepts are a +2 and a +6. Let's double check by putting this into Desmos. So we have x plus 2 and x plus 6. And as we can see, those zeros or x-intercepts should be at -6 and -2. So we were right with what we had. So does this graph show that equation? No, because the zeros in the equation are -2 and -6, while the zeros from the graph are 2 and 6. Okay. Number 4, use the zero product property to solve the following for x. Now, you might not know what zero product property means, but you know what 0 means, and you know how to solve for x. That means we're going to set each of these equal to 0 and solve. So x plus 3 equals 0, and 5x minus 10 equals 0. Let's solve. So on this side, we're going to subtract 3 on both sides, and we get x equals -3. Here, we're going to add 10. We get 5x equals 10, divide by 5, and x equals 2. So the solutions for x are -3 and 2. Now, if they ask for the sum of these, remember -3 plus 2 is -1. If they ask for the bigger one, that's 2. If they ask for the smaller 0, it's -3. Okay, let's keep going. What is the distance between the y-intercept of f of x equals 4x squared plus 5x minus 12 and the y-intercept of the linear, this is a linear function that is represented in the table? Well, first of all, the y-intercept up here, remember, it's the constant. The y-intercept here is negative 12. So y-intercept equals negative 12. And then here, the y-intercept here. Well, these are going up by 3. These are going up by 1. So if I want to go to 0, because an x of 0 gives me the y-intercept, I would subtract 1. So here I would have to subtract 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. So the y-intercept here is 3. What is the distance between these? To find the distance, you would take 1. It's the absolute value, but you would take 1 and subtract the other one. So distance, subtract numbers. Or you can do the distance formula if you want. But 3 minus negative 12 is 3 plus 12, or 15. Now, if I had done the negative 12 first, negative 12 minus 3 is negative 15. You always do the absolute value. Distance is always positive. Now, remember, you can also do the distance formula if you want to, where d is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And this point would be 0, 3. This point would be 0, negative 12. If that's what you want to do, you're more than welcome to do it. You would still get 15 as your answer. So it's always up to you. Okay. For the next one, the following binomial is known as a difference of squares. So we have another difference of squares. R squared minus 36. Determine the two binomials the expression factors into. So r squared minus 36, put your parentheses, split up your variable evenly, take the square root of your number, and do a positive and a negative. There you go. Whew. A rectangle has a perimeter of 48. Let x equal the width of the rectangle. Let y equal the area of the rectangle. Did you hear that? Area. What equation can be used to find the area of the rectangle? Now, this is going to be a lot, so don't stress. This is going to be a lot. A rectangle has a perimeter of 48. So the 2 lengths plus 2 widths equals 48. Because if you remember, perimeter is equal to 2 lengths plus 2 widths. It's adding up the sides. And if you add up the sides, I have 1 width, 2 widths, 1 length, 2 lengths. That's why. So I have this equation. And then it says let x equal the width of the rectangle. So w equals x. Let y equal the area. So y is equal to length times width. Now, instead of width, I'm going to substitute both of these equations with x. So I have y equals L times x, and 2L plus 2x equals 48. Now, I can't write this equation right now because I have an L in there. So I need to substitute this. It's kind of like when we did substitution with systems of equations. It's going to be very similar for this one. So I'm going to need to substitute. To be able to substitute in for L, I have to solve this equation for L. To solve this equation for L, first I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. I'll get 2L equals negative 2x plus 48. Divide by 2. And I get that L is equal to negative x plus 24. And then what I can do is I can substitute this negative x plus 24 back in for L. So I get y is equal to negative x plus 24 times x. So you can use that equation, or sometimes, especially if you are doing this for like a test or anything, they're going to probably have distributed this, especially if it's multiple choice. X times negative x is negative x squared. X times 24 is a positive 24x. So you might get that as an equation. You might not. It just depends. But that would be the answer. All right, next one. Apple models its net income in thousands of dollars with the function f of x equals negative 4x plus 24x plus 28, where x is the number of boxes of iPhones sold. How many boxes does Apple need to sell in order for the net income to equal $0? So I want the net income, to equal $0. Now, x is the number of boxes. And y then is the net income. That being said, I need to know when y is 0. If I'm looking when y is 0, I need to find the x-intercept. To do that, we factor. Or you can put it into Desmos, but again, you might not always have that. So let's factor this. First of all, we're going to take out the GCF. So we're going to get 0 equal to negative 4. I'm taking out negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. So we have x. 24 divided by negative 4 is negative 6x. 28 divided by negative 4 is negative 7. Now we can factor this. For 7, a equals 1, b equals negative 6, c equals negative 7. Factors of negative 7 are 1 and 7, and to give you a negative 6, it'd be a negative 7 and a positive 1, which means I get x plus 1, x minus 7. Now, we got to solve for, we have to find the x-intercept, so we have to solve for this. Remember, it's just the opposite, so I would get negative 1 and a positive 7. Now, how many boxes does Apple need to sell in order for the net income to equal 0? Well, can you sell negative 1 box? No, you can't. So the answer would be 7 boxes. Now let's double check this in Desmos. So I have negative 4x squared. Ooh, and just so you know, sorry, this doesn't say on here, but this should be a squared. Negative 4x squared plus 24x plus 28. And if we look here at 7 being the number of boxes I had to find when the net income or y was 0, you get 7. Now, negative 1, you can't have negative boxes sold. So that's why it can't be that. Okay. Continuing on. Match the expression in the first column with the corresponding products in the second column. To do this, we could multiply the binomial pair or do the table method, whatever you'd prefer. 5x times 2x is 10x squared. 5x times 3 is 15x. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. So I get 10x squared plus 13x minus 3. So this one goes here. For the next one, x times 8x is 8x squared. X times negative 9 is negative 9x. 1 times 8x is a positive 8x. 1 times negative 9 is negative 9. These are going to give you 8x squared minus x, because negative 9 plus 8 is negative 1, minus 9. So this goes across, which means you know this is going to go to here, but let's double check it just to be sure. 2x times 7x is 14x squared. 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. Negative 4 times 7x is negative 28x. Negative 4 times negative 3 is a positive 12. You get 14x squared. These combine to give you negative 34x plus 12. So this one does go there. All right, next one. Use the zero product property to solve the following for x. Now, we just did a problem like this, so you should be good. But remember, it's when you set each of these equal to 0 to find those zeros. So x minus 6 equals 0, and 3x plus 7 equals 0. Add 6 on both sides, x equals 6. Subtract 7, 3x equals negative 7. Divide by 3, x equals negative 7 over 3. And you have your two answers. Name the ordered pair of one of the zeros for the following function. So we just need one of the ordered pairs. So first of all, let's find the zeros. We're going to factor to find those zeros. So factors of 21, because a equals 1, b equals negative 4, and c equals negative 21. Factors of negative 21 are 1, 21, 3, and 7. And to get a negative 4, it would be a negative 7 and a positive 3, which means my zeros are, my factors are x plus 3, x minus 7. To find my zeros, we do the opposite or set those equal to 0, but let's just do the opposite. So -3 and a +7. Now, it asks for the ordered pair. This ordered pair is -3, 0. Remember, an x-intercept is when y equals 0, what is x? And this ordered pair is 7, 0. So that's how you write the ordered pairs. Okay, next one. What is the domain of the quadratic function graph below? Remember, domain means x values. So what's the furthest left this can go? Well, this arrow goes to the left forever, so that's going to be -infinity. And what's the furthest right this can go? Well, that arrow goes forever, so +infinity. You might also write this as all real numbers. Either way is fine, but the domain, if you have to write it out, is all real numbers written like that. Okay. I think these are our last 3 questions. Consider the equation x squared minus 9x plus 2. Determine whether the function has a maximum or a minimum, then determine the vertex of the function. So first of all, this is opening up or down since a is positive. Well, since a is positive, it's opening up. So does it have a maximum or a minimum? It has a lowest number, so it has a minimum. And then it says, then determine the vertex of the function. Well, we know how to do that. We first find the axis of symmetry, which is -b/2a. So -9 gives me a +9 over 2 times 1, and that equals 4.5. Now to find y, we plug that in. So coming to Desmos, I'm going to plug 4.5 in for x. So 4.5 squared minus 9 times 4.5 plus 2. Now I get -18.25. Now if I'm going to write this as a vertex, I'm going to write it as 4.5 because that's my x. And then my y is -18.25. So I'm going to write that. And then this is my vertex. Now we're going to double check this by putting this whole equation into Desmos. So x squared minus 9x plus 2. And we're going to actually see it has a minimum, and that minimum is at 4.5, -18.25. So we can also get it from Desmos. Okay. What are the solutions to the equation? Remember, solutions means x-intercepts or zeros or roots. So if we're going to have to factor this. To factor it, we have to first get it equal to 0. So subtract 14 from both sides, and I get 3x squared plus 24x plus 36. Now my a is not 1, so I need to take out the GCF, which would have to be 3. And I get x squared, 24 divided by 3 is 8. 36 divided by 3 is 12. Now I can do factors of 12 because a equals 1 now, b equals 8, and c equals 12. Factors of 12 are 1, 12, 2, 6, 3, 4. I need them to add or be the same sign to give me a +8. So 2 and 6, they're both going to be positive. And I get x plus 2, x plus 6. Now, find the solution. I do the opposite of those. Or you can set them equal to 0. You're going to get the same answer. And you get -2, -6. Those are the solutions. Okay. Last question. A function has 2 positive zeros. The function has a minimum value in the 4th quadrant of the coordinate axis. What could be the function? Well, let's put these in and see. First of all, quadrants. First quadrant is in the top right. Second quadrant is in the top left. Third quadrant is in the bottom left. And fourth quadrant is in the bottom right. So if I'm drawing this, this is going to have a minimum value here. And it has 2 positive zeros. So it should look something like this. The minimum value in the 4th quadrant, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has 2 positive zeros. Remember those zeros being the x-intercepts. These are positive because they're on the right side, and those are positive numbers. So let's put these in and see which one's correct. So I have x squared minus 17x plus 16. So zooming out, This minimum is in the fourth quadrant, and it has 2 positive zeros. So the first one works. Let's see if the rest of them do. This one has 2 negative zeros. They're on the left side. It's negative 16 and a negative 1. So B is wrong. Let's look at the next one. We have minus 16 and plus 6x. This has 1 positive, 1 negative 0, a negative 8, and a 2. And the minimum is in the third quadrant. So C does not work. And my last choice, D, has a negative 2 and a positive 8. So 1 negative, 1 positive 0. And the vertex is in the fourth quadrant, but it's that the zeros, 1 positive, 1 negative. So D is not the answer either. Even though I knew I had the right answer with A, you always, 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 always double check just to make sure. Now tomorrow, you do have your test on this tomorrow. For your test tomorrow, you can use these notes, and this test is very, very, very similar to this. So you're able to use this study guide to help you tomorrow. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you later.